Hey everybody, welcome to Garage Quest The Books, where we talk about the books of D&D. Today we're talking about the Dungeon Master's Guide. You gotta see it. Stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to Garage Quest The Books, where we break down the books of D&D. And today, of course, we're talking about the D.M.G itself, the Dungeon Master's Guide. One thing I want to put out there here, first and foremost, is that if you're a beginner to D&D and you're just playing the game or looking to play the game, not looking to actually be a dungeon master, you don't really need this book. Now, that's not to say you won't enjoy this book, because the more you get into D&D, the more fun D&D will be. And it can be quite addictive, habit forming for sure. But you don't need this to be a player. So let me put that out there right away. You do not need this to be a player. That said, let's talk about the D.M.G. The Dungeon Master's Guide is an official release by Wizards of the Coast, and it is, like the Player's Handbook, a guideline book full of scenarios and rules about the world of Dungeons and Dragons. But this book, unlike the Player's Handbook, is tailored more for the actual Dungeon Master, the guy who's going to plan today's session for you. He puts together a campaign, an idea of what he wants the scenario to be for the players, so that you, the player, can play the game. And in this book are all sorts of things that he needs to guide the decision making, the landscapes, and how to react to the players' decisions. So if we open this guy up, it's going to walk you through the process of the things that you'll need to work out before you start this game as a dungeon master. So this is going to talk about the different gods that exist in Dungeons and Dragons, or guidelines on how to create your own gods. This is going to talk about how settlements work in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to talk about different play styles. Are you someone who likes to encourage a lot of role play in your game, or are you more about the mechanics of the game? These are the sort of things that it'll briefly and lightly touch on in that first chapter to warm you up to what it's like to be a dungeon master, to be a DM. Then in the second part, it's gonna get into the different planes of existence. See, in Dungeons and Dragons, the beauty of it is you're not just living in this like medieval style fantasy Renaissance world. There are also different planes of existence on which different sort of creatures live, and you can travel to these planes. Your characters can travel to those planes. You can create doorways or trap doorways to those planes. You can create adventures where a monster gets out of one of those planes and arrives on the plane where you choose to have your adventure. And so this book kind of creates a guidelines for what each of those planes are called, how things work, how travel works, how movement works, and what kind of creatures might live there. So from there, this book is really just going to get into another crucial part of DMing, which is building a character called an NPC. NPC stands for non-player character. Now, a non-player character is a character that the dungeon master creates and introduces to the actual player characters at some point in his story. So if your story requires a guy showing up on horseback and announcing that he is taking over this realm and all of the characters need to get out of the forest within 24 hours. Well, you would need to probably build an NPC character sheet for that character so that if they attack him you know how much damage he takes, so that you know how he might retaliate. Those guidelines are perfectly laid out in the D.M.G. Another crucial part of DMing that you will find guidelines for in the D.M.G. are things like how to lay out a map for your players. Now, some people might play completely verbal games, but most of us at this point like to have a map to place miniatures on so we can see how far we are from our destination or whatever's around us and move turn by turn in our 30-foot speed movement or whatever it may be. It'll also help you determine what to do with treasure hoards. Maybe you want your characters to be able to find treasure on their journey, and it'll help you with what kinds of treasure there are, maybe what kinds of gems are valued at how much money, what the currency of these worlds are. These are all things that make the world feel more visceral, more alive, more real, if you have them figured out. And what makes this game so great is they've already done that for you. One of the most important things that the Dungeon Master Guide has are rules for different states of being. So in the game of Dungeons and Dragons, characters, when they take damage from different monsters or other players even, they sometimes deal damage that can come along with some sort of state, like being poisoned, being prone, and all of those effects are laid out for reference inside of the DMG. Last but not least, this book will help you create a monster of your own. The next book that I'm going to be doing an episode on will, of course, be the Monster Manual. And that is a book just full of stats for a ton of monsters that you can use in your games. But you can also just create your own monsters, and I think that can be really cool. It allows you to engage in a more creative way with this game. So that's it. I hope that this has been a very brief but comprehensive rundown of what the Dungeon Master's Guide is. It's really a wonderful read, and it's a must-have if you want to be a dungeon master. Oh, one last thing. My favorite part of the Dungeon Master's Guide is a comprehensive list of magical items. Now, what's great about magical items is that maybe when your characters go through your dungeon, they don't just find treasure. Maybe they find some hidden magical items. These are items that they can take with them and use to cast spells or effects in further parts of your campaign or other adventures. And Wizards of the Coast has done an amazing job putting together an alphabetical, comprehensive list of really cool magical items, things that can make you invisible, think cloaks that can dispel magic, and all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures. So I would definitely suggest that whether you're a dungeon master or not, you check that out. Now, I should remind you that the Dungeon Master's Guide is available on PDF form. If you just Google Dungeon Master's Guide, I think it pops up as the very first link. If not, it's second or third. So you can view the Dungeon Master's Guide page by page through your Adobe program just by looking it up on Google. Or if you're like me and you need to touch up, feel up your books, you can purchase it online or at your local hobby shop. So that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you go out and read the DMG. Thanks for watching. Go forth and quest. This has been Garage Quest, and please remember to subscribe. Show your passion. Subscribe.